You know we wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious, sweetheart. My mother's voice cracked as she reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Her nails were perfectly manicured, red tips like always. Her eyes, though, were glassy and wet. Dad sat beside her, silent, his hands clenched in his lap like he was bracing for impact. I looked at both of them, then at the untouched tea in front of me. Something in my gut twisted, but I didn't say anything yet. We're scared, she continued. The bills are piling up, and the insurance is being difficult. Dad finally spoke. It's my heart, Lil. The doctor said I need a procedure, sooner rather than later. My name is Lillian, and I've always been the responsible one. The one who paid her own way through college, who freelanced double shifts to save for a condo, who never asked for help. The one who got the "you're so mature" pats on the back, while my younger brother, Clark, got everything else. Didn't you say it was your back last time? I asked, trying to keep my voice even. Dad shifted. It's both now. Things are deteriorating. And the hospital won't cover it? They're dragging their feet, Mum said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. We're drowning, honey. We didn't know who else to turn to. I sat back in my chair, heart pounding. $32,000. That's what I had in my savings. It was supposed to be my down payment, my escape plan, my future. Clark doesn't have anything, I asked, and immediately regretted it. Mum's face hardened. Clark's still trying to find steady work. He's not in a position to help. Right, I said, biting my tongue. Dad cleared his throat. We hate to ask, Lil. We really do. But if there's any way you could help, even just a portion, we'd pay you back, every cent. I looked at them. My parents, aging, desperate, eyes full of pleading. And despite the warning bells in my head, despite the memories of Clark borrowing my laptop and selling it in high school, despite the time Mum guilt-tripped me into paying her credit card minimum just this once, I nodded. I'll transfer it tonight, I said quietly. Mum let out a sob and threw her arms around me. You're saving us, she whispered. You're saving your father. Dad looked at me with watery eyes and nodded. Thank you, baby girl. You're our rock. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. Later that night, I stared at my bank app for a long time before I hit send. The number blinked at me like a dare. $32,000, gone in a single tap. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just closed the app and laid back on my bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. 3 days later, I was waiting for my coffee order when I opened Instagram, just killing time. I wasn't expecting anything, but there it was. A photo, champagne flutes clinking, a yacht in the background, my mother in oversized sunglasses, laughing, my dad in a linen shirt holding a cigar, Clark, of course, front and centre, shirtless with his arms out like he was the king of the damn world. The caption read, "Hospital gowns traded for Italian ones. You're blessed a pal family trip?" My thumb froze. My stomach dropped. I blinked, thinking maybe I was seeing things. I clicked on the tag. Athena's profile, Clark's girlfriend, the kind of girl who posted 5 times a day and thought filters were a personality. Her latest story was a boomerang of them boarding a boat, complete with a pre-Europe vibes sticker and a song I didn't recognise. I clicked the comments. Your sister really is that gullible haha. Clark had replied with a laughing emoji. I don't remember walking out of the coffee shop. I don't remember getting into my car. I just remember sitting in the driver's seat, phone in my lap, staring at the screen like it had personally punched me in the face. They lied. They lied to me. They looked me in the eye, cried, begged, and stole from me. Not borrowed, stole. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My vision blurred. I couldn't breathe. I thought about the time I was 10, and Clark broke Mum's favourite vase. She found me in the living room and slapped the back of my head before I could even explain. Don't lie, she said. Be better than this. I thought about the time Clark crashed my car, and they made me apologise for leaving it out where he could take it. I thought about every time I swallowed my anger, every time I played the good daughter, the responsible one, the fixer, and I thought about that $32,000, every hour I worked, Every weekend, I skipped plans to save. Every time I said no to myself so I could say yes to a future. Gone. I should have called them. I should have screamed. But I didn't. Instead, I closed the app. I wiped my face. I drove home. That Sunday, I showed up for dinner like I always did. I brought dessert. I complimented Mum's new dress. I asked Dad how he was feeling. And when Clark walked in, grinning like the smug little prince he's always been, I smiled right back. "Oh, Lil," he said, throwing an arm around me. "You're seriously the best sister in the world." "Thanks, Clark," I said, pouring him a glass of wine. "I try." I watched them eat. I watched them laugh. I watched them toast to good health and new adventures. And I smiled, because I knew something they didn't. They thought I was the same girl who always forgave, who always gave in. They were wrong. They just didn't know it yet. I couldn't stop scrolling. Every tap of my thumb felt like a punch to the gut, but I couldn't stop. Athena had posted a full album now, 12 photos of their Bon Voyage bash, one of Clark in designer sunglasses, throwing cash in the air like he was in a rap video, another of my mom sipping champagne in a silk robe, my dad asleep on a beach chair, sunburnt and snoring, and then the one that broke me. It was a group shot, the whole family minus me posing on the yacht's deck. The caption read, "Nothing like family." I stared at it until the screen blurred from the tears I refused to let fall. I clicked the comments. "Where's your sister?" someone asked. Athena had replied, "She's more of a homebody. She couldn't swing it, financially." Clark had liked the comment. I dropped my phone on the couch and stood up too fast. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped a belt around my ribs and started pulling. I stormed into the kitchen, opened the fridge, closed it again. My hands were shaking. I gripped the counter, trying to breathe. The worst part wasn't the money. It wasn't even the lie. It was the joke. The way they laughed about it. Like I was some pathetic joke in their group chat. The gullible sister. The one who always believed their sob stories. The one who paid and stayed behind. My phone buzzed. "Cecilia," I picked up. "Hey," she said. "You okay? You sound like you're breathing through a straw." "They used me," I said, voice flat. "They stole from me and then posted it like a vacation ad." There was a pause on the line. "What are you talking about?" I told her. Everything. The fake medical bills, the yacht, the comments, Clark's emoji. I didn't even realize I was pacing the kitchen until I bumped into the table. "Lil," she said slowly, "you need to come over?" "I can't. I'll cry or scream or both." "Good. Do it here. I've got wine and a punching pillow." I laughed, but it came out like a cough. "I don't know what to do." "Don't do anything yet," she said. "Just feel it. Then we'll figure it out." I hung up and sank onto the floor. The tile was cold. My cheeks were burning. I thought about when I was 8, and Clark had stolen the $20 I'd saved from birthdays. I found the empty envelope under his bed. When I told Mum, she said, "He's your brother. Don't be petty." I thought about when I got into college and no one came to move me in because Clark had a very important soccer tryout the same day. I thought about every time they made me feel like a burden for asking for fairness. And I thought about that comment again. She's more of a homebody. She couldn't swing it financially. I stood up. No more crying, no more pacing, no more swallowing it. I grabbed my phone and went back to the post. I stared at Clark's smug face and tapped on his profile. His bio read, "Entrepreneur, dream chaser, family first." I nearly threw the phone across the room. Instead, I hit the message button, but I didn't type anything. Not yet. The next night, I sat at the dinner table again. Mum had made her famous roast. Dad was already on his second glass of wine. Clark was scrolling through his phone like he hadn't just posted my betrayal to the internet. "So," I said, cutting into my food. "How's your heart, Dad?" He blinked. "Oh, better. The meds are helping." "Thought you needed surgery?" Mum jumped in. "Well, we got a second opinion. Turns out we might have overreacted. You know how hospitals are." Clark snorted. You should have seen Mum when the yacht rocked. She screamed like the boat was sinking. Everyone laughed. Except me. I smiled. "Glad you're feeling better." Clark looked up. You okay, Lil? You've been quiet. Just tired, I said. Work's been crazy. Still doing those app things? Yep, he shrugged. You should take a break sometime. Come to Europe with us next month. I tilted my head. Oh, you're going again? Yeah, he said, grinning. Athena's planning the whole thing. First class, baby. Italy, Greece, maybe Spain. Depends on the vibe. Dad chuckled. We're just tagging along. She's got the itinerary down to a science. Mum reached over and patted my hand. You should come, sweetheart. We'll figure something out. Thanks, I said. But I'm still recovering from the last medical emergency. Clark snorted into his drink. Mum's smile faltered. Well, health is priceless, right? I nodded. So is trust. The silence that followed was sharp. I stood and started clearing the plates. Don't worry, I said over my shoulder. I'll clean up. It was the least I could do. After all, I had a plan to make, and I needed them to keep thinking I was the same gullible little girl who'd always clean up their messes. Because revenge tastes better when it's served with a smile. You want to do what? Reuben asked, blinking at me from across the table. We were at a small cafe downtown, the kind with chipped mugs and indie music playing too loud. He was still wearing his accountant badge on a lanyard, half tucked into his shirt. I could tell he thought I was joking. I want to give them a credit card, I said, sipping my coffee. He leaned back, eyebrows raised. After they conned you out of 32 grand, you want to hand them more money? Not exactly. I want to hand them a leash. He stared at me for a second, then let out a low whistle. Okay, walk me through it. I pulled out a folder from my bag and slid it across the table. I open a new emergency card under my name, low limit. 5 grand, tops. I attach it to a separate account, one I control. I'll tell them it's for medical expenses, just in case something comes up while they're travelling. Reuben flipped through the papers. His eyes scanned fast. You want to track their spending? More than that, I said. I want to bait them. Let them get comfortable. Let them think I'm still the same old Lillian. He looked up. And then? I leaned in. Then I pull the rug. Reuben set the folder down and rubbed his jaw. You know this is walking a fine line, right? Legally, you're not doing anything wrong. Morally, I'm not stealing from them, I said. I'm just letting them expose themselves. He studied me for a moment. You always were the quiet one. But damn, I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. Are you sure you're ready for what happens if you go through with this? He asked. No, I said, but I'm doing it anyway. He nodded slowly. All right, I'll help you set it up, but you need to document everything. Emails, texts, receipts, screenshots. Keep a paper trail. I already started, I said, pulling out a small notebook from my bag. Every lie, every post, every time they mention a fake doctor's appointment. He gave a short laugh. You're scarier than I remember. Good. We spent the next hour going over the logistics. By the time I left the cafe, the card was in the works, and the account was ready. I walked home with my hands deep in my coat pockets, heart pounding like I'd just pulled off a heist. The next day, I showed up at my parents' house with a small envelope. What's this? Mum asked, flipping it over. Just something to help, I said. It's a backup card, for emergencies, real ones. Her eyes lit up. Lillian, you didn't have to do that. I wanted to, I lied. Just in case you need medication, or a cab to the hospital, or whatever. Dad took the envelope and peeked inside. You're too good to us. I smiled. I just want you to be safe. Clark walked in from the kitchen, chewing something. What's that? Emergency card, Mum said, waving it. Clark raised an eyebrow. Nice. Can I use it for my back pain? Might need a massage in Santorini. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. That night, I opened my laptop and logged into the account. No charges yet. I clicked through the settings, set up alerts for every transaction, and linked it to a spreadsheet Reuben had built for me. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop and labelled it. Receipts. The next few weeks were a masterclass in acting. I helped them pack. I drove them to fake doctor's appointments. I listened to Mom lie about follow-ups and specialists, and nodded like I believed her. I even brought soup one night, just to sell it harder. Every time Clark bragged about the trip, I smiled and asked questions. What airline? Which hotel? Oh, that sounds amazing. Meanwhile, Athena's Instagram was a gold mine. She posted everything. Flight confirmations, luggage hauls, spa bookings. She even tagged the hotel they'd be staying at in Rome. I took screenshots of everything, dated them, filed them. Cecilia called me every night. You okay? She'd ask. Getting there, I'd say. You're holding a lot in. I know. You don't have to be strong every second. I know. One night, Mum called me crying. I just wanted to say thank you, baby. We'd never survive without you. I had my phone on speaker, the recorder app running. You don't have to thank me, I said gently. I'm just glad I can help. You're a blessing, she said. Clark says so too. I hung up and stared at the wall for a long time. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about dignity. They took mine, and I was going to take it back, inch by inch, lie by lie. The next morning, I got my first alert. $87.50, high-end spa. I smiled. The card was live. The game had started. Can you drive us to the clinic next Tuesday? Mum asked, folding another sundress into her suitcase. I nodded. Of course. What time? 9:30. It's just a check-up for your dad. Nothing major. Dad walked by holding a pair of swim trunks. Should I pack the red ones or the navy? Mum didn't miss a beat. Red. They pop in photos. I held back a laugh. For the clinic. She froze for a split second, then smiled. No, for the trip. After the appointments. Right, I said, zipping up the side of her luggage. Gotta look good for recovery. Clark strolled in, shirtless as usual, sunglasses on his head, like he was already in Ibiza. You all packed, Ma? Almost. Just making sure we've got everything. Lillian's helping. Clark smirked. Of course she is. I didn't respond. I just folded another blouse and laid it on top of her jewellery case. I booked our massages for day 2, he said, checking his phone. And Athena wants to do a wine tour in Tuscany. She's calling it Content with Culture. Dad chuckled. As long as there's wine, I'm in. Mum turned to me. You sure you don't want to come, honey? It's not too late. I'll be here, I said, holding down the fort. Clark threw an arm around me. You're the real MVP. I smiled and patted his back. Someone's got to be. Later that afternoon, I drove them to the clinic. It was a beige building in a strip mall, wedged between a vape shop and a nail salon. Mum had me drop them off at the front, saying the appointment would take a while. I parked around the corner and waited. 10 minutes later, I watched them walk out the back door and into a rideshare. I snapped a photo from my car. I followed the app on my phone as the card pinged another charge. $42.75 at a seafood bistro downtown. I took a screenshot. That night, I FaceTimed Cecilia. They faked a doctor's appointment and went to lunch, I said, showing her the photo. She raised her eyebrows. They're not even trying to hide it. They think I'm still blind. And you're just keeping cool. Barely. She leaned in. You're playing a dangerous game. I know. Do you feel better? No, I said. But I feel clearer. The next few days were more of the same. Can you pick up Dad's prescription? Mum texted. Of course, I replied. I drove to the pharmacy, asked for the name, and got a confused look from the cashier. There's nothing under that name, she said. Maybe it hasn't been filled yet, I said, smiling. Thanks anyway. I walked out and made another note in my journal. Entry 17, non-existent prescription, confirmed lie. That night, Clark called me. Yo, Lil, you still have that emergency card? Yeah, why? Just making sure. Athena wants to book a last-minute facial before we fly out. Says she's breaking out from stress. I bit my lip. Is that a medical emergency? He laughed. You're hilarious. I didn't laugh. Yeah, it's fine, I said. Just keep it under 500. Cool. You're the best. Another ping came through an hour later. 312 Gals orders. Luxury skincare boutique. I didn't even flinch. The night before their flight, I helped them load the car. "Don't forget your passport," I said, handing it to Mum. "I'd lose my head if it wasn't attached." She joked. Dad kissed my cheek. "We'll bring you something nice." Clark tossed his suitcase into the trunk. "Don't miss us too much." Athena pulled up in her convertible, snapping selfies as she got out. "Ready to jet set?" she squealed. "Always," Clark said, grabbing her waist. I took a step back and watched them pose together. "Group photo," Athena called. Mum waved me over. "Get in, Lil." I smiled and held up the phone. "I'll take it. Say, scam de luce." Everyone laughed. I took the photo, then another, then one more for good measure. Then I walked over, hugged Mom tightly and whispered, "Be safe." She squeezed my hand. "We'll call you from Rome." Dad gave me a thumbs up. "Thanks for everything, sweetheart." Clark winked. "Don't spend all your time working while we're gone." Athena blew me a kiss. "Love you, girl." I waved as they drove off. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the folder. Screenshots, photos, receipts, notes. I clicked record on a voice memo and said, "Final prep complete, departure confirmed, card active." I ended the recording and saved it. The next morning, I got a text from Ruben. "All systems green. You ready?" I typed back. "Let's do this." The trap was set. Now all I had to do was wait for them to walk into it. Athena's voice blasted through my phone speaker before I even opened the app. "First class, baby! Rome, here we come!" Her Instagram story was a blur of designer luggage, boarding passes, and Clark doing a stupid little dance in front of the airport lounge sign. My parents were in the background, Mom adjusting her scarf, Dad sipping something from a paper cup with that smug, retired golfer on vacation look. I paused the video and zoomed in on the boarding pass. Delta, Flight 214, Gate B12, departing 6:45 p.m. Gotcha. I opened the emergency card app. They'd been busy. A $1,200 charge at a boutique hotel near LAX. Another $300 on travel upgrades. And then the one I'd been waiting for. $600 for a last-minute luxury car rental. I smiled and tapped the flag transaction button. The app asked for a reason. I selected unauthorized use. Then I hit confirm. A few seconds later, a fraud alert email popped into my inbox. Subject: Suspicious activity detected on your emergency card. Perfect. I grabbed my keys and headed out the door. Cecilia called as I pulled into the rental car lot across from the airport. "You sure you want to do this?" she asked. "I'm not doing anything illegal," I said. "Just letting the system work." "You're sitting in a parking lot watching your parents get flagged by airport security." "Technically, I'm watching from a legal distance." She sighed. "You're scaring me a little." "I'm scaring myself a little." A pause. "Do you want me to come?" "No," I said. "This part, I need to do alone." I hung up and stared at the terminal in the distance. Inside, my family was probably laughing, sipping overpriced wine, and filming more content for Athena's followers. I opened Instagram again. She just posted a new story. "OMG, our flight is delayed, but at least we're vibing in the lounge. Cheetah, first-class problems," I tapped through. Then I froze. The next clip was a shaky video of a man in a security vest walking up to them. Athena's voice. "Wait. What?" Clark. "Is this a joke?" Mum. "There must be a mistake. My daughter gave us that card." The camera panned to Dad, who was red in the face and fumbling through his wallet. Then the story cut off. I refreshed the app. A new story popped up. Athena, whispering into the camera, wide-eyed. "Y'all, we just got pulled aside because of a flagged card. They're saying it's fraud. Like, what the actual—" Clark's voice in the background. "Are we getting arrested?" I took a deep breath and leaned back in my seat. My hands were shaking. Not from guilt, from adrenaline. My phone buzzed. Blocked number. I let it ring once, twice. Then I answered. "Lillian?" Mum's voice snapped through the line. "What did you do?" "Hi, Mum. Don't play dumb with me. The card was declined, security flagged us, and now we're being told the account might be frozen. What is going on?" "I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding," I said. keeping my voice calm. "You know how banks are." "Don't you dare," she hissed. "You gave us that card for emergencies." "I did. And now we're stuck at the airport with no way to pay for anything." "Sounds like an emergency," I said. "Maybe try calling the hospital." There was a pause. Then, "You ungrateful little—" I hung up. A text came in a second later. "Clark, what the hell is wrong with you?" I didn't reply. Another one followed. "Clark, you're ruining everything. You're jealous. That's what this is." I turned off my phone. I sat in that car for another hour, watching the sun dip behind the terminal and the planes take off, one by one. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt empty, like I'd just burned a bridge I'd spent my whole life trying to build. But then I thought about the $32,000. I thought about every lie they told, every time they made me feel small, every Instagram post that mocked me, and I remembered why I had to do this. Not to ruin them, but to stop letting them ruin me. I turned my phone back on. Athena had posted again. A blurry selfie in front of the airport bathroom mirror. Caption: "OMG, deceit in the air." I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened the Notes app and typed, "Phase 2, complete." Next stop, the reckoning. From the parking lot, I could see the terminal's glass front lit up in the late evening sun. People wheeled suitcases, hugged goodbye, rushed through sliding doors. I stayed in my car, engine off, phone in hand. Ruben's name lit up my screen. I answered. "Talk to me." "They've been pulled from the gate," he said. "Security flagged the card, and when they tried to use another one, it declined too. I guess your dad's gambling caught up." I blinked. "Wait, what?" "Yeah. I ran a light check on his accounts like you asked. His main card's frozen for unpaid debt. Looks like the airline wouldn't let them board without another form of payment." I stared at the terminal. "So? They're grounded." "They're not just grounded," Ruben said. "They're humiliated. Athena was live streaming when it happened." "What?" "Check her page." I opened Instagram. Sure enough, there she was. Shaky footage, her voice high and panicked. "I can't believe this. They flagged our card, and now we're being escorted out of the lounge like criminals. This is insane." Camera pans to Clark, red-faced and yelling. "Call my sister. She did this. She's insane." My mother's voice cuts in, shrill. "We're not criminals. That's our daughter's card." The video ends with Athena turning the camera on herself. "This is so embarrassing. I'm literally shaking." I exhaled slowly. "They're unraveling." Ruben chuckled. "You wanted karma. Looks like it showed up early." "Where are they now?" "From what I can tell, they're at a motel across the freeway. One of those budget ones with a flickering sign. They tried booking somewhere nicer, but, you know." I looked down at my hands. They were steady now. "Thanks, Ruben." "Be careful, Lil," he said. "They're not going to take this lightly." I'm not afraid of them anymore. I hung up and started the car. It took me 5 minutes to pull into the cracked parking lot of the motel. The sign buzzed overhead. Vacancy flickering like a dying firefly. A couple argued near the vending machine. Somewhere, a baby cried. I spotted them instantly. Clark was pacing outside room 12, phone pressed to his ear, yelling into the receiver. Mum sat on a plastic chair, arms crossed, sunglasses on even though the sun was nearly gone. Dad leaned against the wall, rubbing his temples. Athena was nowhere in sight. I parked across the lot and waited. Watched. Clark threw his phone down and kicked a trash can. "She's not answering." "She better answer," Mum snapped. "This is her fault." Dad muttered something I couldn't hear. I got out of the car and walked straight toward them. Mum spotted me first. She stood up so fast the chair tipped over. "You!" she hissed. "What did you do?" I stopped 3 feet from them. "I gave you a card for emergencies. You used it for spa days and car rentals." Clark stepped forward. "You set us up." "No," I said calmly. "You set yourselves up. I just kept the receipts." I pulled a manila folder from my bag and handed it to Mum. "What is this?" she snapped. "Proof of everything. The fake appointments, the charges, the screenshots, the lies." She opened it, flipping through pages. Her hands started to shake. Clark snatched it from her. This is insane. You stalked us? No, I said. I watched. There's a difference. Dad looked up at me. You humiliated us. You stole from me, I said, voice rising. You lied to my face. You cried in my living room and told me Dad needed surgery. You drained my savings and laughed about it online. Clark threw the folder to the ground. Papers scattered across the concrete. You're bitter, he spat. You've always been bitter because you're boring and alone. I smiled. And you're broke and grounded. He lunged at me. Dad grabbed his arm. Clark, stop. Mum was crying now, mascara running. We're your family. You taught me that family means loyalty, I said. But only when it benefits you. Clark pulled away from Dad and grabbed a plastic cup from the ground. He hurled it at me. It bounced off my shoulder. Then he picked up a glass ashtray from the windowsill and threw it. It shattered at my feet. I didn't flinch. I looked at the shards, then back at him. That's the last thing you'll ever throw at me. Without another word, I turned and walked back to my car. Behind me, Mum was sobbing. Clark was yelling. Dad was silent. I got in, shut the door, and drove away. I didn't look back. Not once. The motel room door creaked open before I even knocked. Mum stood there, eyes puffy, hair a mess, makeup smeared like war paint. She looked 10 years older than she had 2 days ago. You came back, she said, surprised. I'm not here to fight, I said. I'm here to finish this. She stepped aside. I walked in. The room smelled like mildew and fast food. The curtains were drawn tight. Clark sat on the bed, arms crossed, face hard. Dad was by the window, staring out like he might escape through the glass. No one said anything. I dropped a second folder onto the table. This one was thicker. Clark scoffed. Another presentation? This one's got everything, I said. The bank statements, the flagged charges, the screenshots from Athena's stories, the messages, even your comment about me being gullible. Mum sat down slowly and opened the folder. Her hands trembled as she flipped the pages. Where did you get all this? She asked. I documented everything, I said. Every lie, every swipe of that card, every fake appointment. You gave me all the material, I just organised it. Clark stood up. You're insane. You've lost your mind. No, I said. I finally found it. Dad turned around. What do you want from us? An apology? You've made your point. I looked at him. I want accountability. Clark laughed. You want us to grovel? Is that it? No, I said. I want you to hear yourselves. I want you to sit in this room and realise you've hit rock bottom because of your own choices, not because of me. Mum wiped her face. We were desperate. No, I said. You were greedy. You saw my savings and thought, why not? She won't fight back. Dad sat down, rubbing his temples. We didn't think it would go this far. Of course not, I said, because I've always cleaned up the mess, paid the bills, smiled through the insults, but not this time. Clark picked up the folder and threw it across the room. You're pathetic. I turned to him. You're 25 and living off your parents' lies. You think you're untouchable. You think being loud makes you right. But you're not special, Clark. You're just spoiled. He lunged forward. Say that again. Sit down, Dad snapped, standing up. Clark froze, shocked. I said sit down, Dad repeated. You've done enough. Clark backed off, fuming. Mum looked at me, eyes glassy. We didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't care if you did, I said. She covered her face with her hands. I thought we could fix it later. You thought I'd forget, I said. Like always. The room went quiet. I walked over to the nightstand and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a printed letter. I handed it to Mum. What's this? She asked. A list of every dollar you took, with interest. I'm not expecting repayment, but I want you to know what it cost me. She unfolded it slowly. Her lips moved as she read. Her face crumpled. I was going to buy a condo, I said. I had a plan, a future. You stole that from me. Clark muttered, You're so dramatic. I turned to him. You're so irrelevant. He stood up again, but this time no one stopped him. He grabbed his phone and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Dad sat back down, exhausted. What happens now? You stay here, I said. You figure out how to get home. You live with the consequences. Mum looked up. And you? I go back to my life, I said. Without you in it. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked like she wanted to beg, but she didn't. I walked to the door. I loved you, I said, hand on the knob. I still do, but I won't let you keep hurting me. I opened the door. Behind me, Mum whispered, I'm sorry. I didn't turn around. I walked out into the night, the air cool and sharp. The glass from Clark's earlier tantrum still glittered on the pavement. I stepped over it. My hands were steady. My heart was pounding. But I was free. The pizza box steamed on my tiny kitchen counter, and Cecilia popped open a bottle of wine with a dramatic flourish. To new beginnings, she said, raising her glass. I clinked mine against hers. To quiet. We sat on the floor because I didn't have a couch yet. My new apartment was small. 1 bedroom, no balcony, no dishwasher. But it was mine. The walls were bare. The air smelled like fresh paint. And the silence was the kind that didn't suffocate. Cecilia took a bite of pizza and looked around. It's cute, minimalist, very, I burned my past and now I sleep peacefully. I laughed. That's the vibe I'm going for. She leaned back on one hand. How are you really feeling? I hesitated. Lighter, but not happy? Not yet. Because of them? No, I said. Because of me. Revenge felt good in the moment, but it didn't fix the hole they left. She nodded slowly. You did what you had to do. I know. My phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't move. Cecilia glanced at it. Them? Probably. I blocked their numbers, but Clark keeps trying from random ones. Athena too. Still, I shrugged. Last one said, You ruined our family. Hope you're proud. Cecilia scoffed. They ruined themselves. I took a sip of wine. I don't think they'll ever see it that way. She watched me for a second. Do you want them to? No, I said. I just want them far away. She raised her glass again. To boundaries. To boundaries, I echoed. We ate in silence for a while. The city buzzed outside, but in here it was calm. Eventually, Cecilia stood and stretched. I should head out. You need sleep. Thanks for coming. Always. She hugged me tight. You're not alone, okay? I know. After she left, I stood at the window and looked out at the streetlights. Cars passed below, headlights casting slow-moving shadows on the walls. I picked up my phone and opened Instagram one last time. Athena had posted a new story, a moody black and white selfie, captioned, Can't trust anyone, even family. So I clicked on the comments. Clark had written, Still not over it, but I got what I deserved. I stared at it. Then I opened my photo gallery, selected every picture of my family and hit delete. One by one, they vanished. I closed the app. I turned off the phone, and I breathed.